Every single morning, you wake up and slip back into the world you left behind the night before. The routines, the thoughts, the sense of self, it all feels so stable, so unquestionable. But have you ever paused to ask yourself, what if this is just another dream? There's something profoundly strange about reality when you truly begin to examine it, not in a metaphorical or abstract way, but as an undeniable fact that has puzzled thinkers, scientists, and mystics for centuries. The world you experience, its colors, its sounds, its textures, isn't something you're perceiving directly. It's something your brain is constructing. It's a rendered simulation, pieced together from electrical signals, forming a coherent picture so you don't lose your mind to sensory overload. The world as you know it isn't what it seems. Imagine walking through a dream. While you're inside it, everything feels real. You interact with people, move through places, and feel emotions. Nothing seems off until you wake up. In that instant, everything that felt solid, everything that felt real, vanishes. Now here's the question, how do you know that hasn't already happened? Because this feels real just as the dream did, but you still woke up. What if waking up is just another layer? What if reality itself is another level of dreaming? Ancient traditions have spoken of this for centuries. The Hindu concept of Maya describes reality as a grand illusion, a veil that blinds us from seeing things as they truly are. The Dzogchen teachings believe that the self and the world were not separate, but one continuous flow of existence. Then there's the story of Zhuangzi, a Chinese philosopher who once dreamt he was a butterfly. When he woke, he asked himself, was he a man who had dreamt he was a butterfly, or a butterfly dreaming he was a man? Even today, some of the most advanced studies in neuroscience and quantum physics point in the same direction. Scientists have searched for the self in the brain only to find nothing, no single place where you reside. No homunculus pulling the strings, just an intricate web of neurons firing, creating the illusion of a continuous, stable identity. But if there is no core self, then who is watching? Some might say, well, obviously, I am. But the very moment you think that, who is noticing that thought? If you try to locate yourself, you end up in a paradox. Every time you identify with something, your thoughts, your emotions, your body, you realize something deeper is observing it. That awareness, that silent presence in the background has no form, no name, no identity. It's just there. And that changes everything, because if the one experiencing life isn't the story of you, if it's not the thinker, the identity, the personality, then what are you? This question isn't meant to be answered. It's meant to be experienced. Because when you stop identifying with the thoughts in your head, when you stop mistaking the dream for reality, something happens, a moment of stillness, a break in the illusion. And then, for the first time, you start to wake up. The world you accept without question. If everything you know was built upon a single, unchallenged assumption, would you even be able to recognize it? From the moment you open your eyes each day, your mind reconstructs the world for you, filling in the gaps, smoothing out inconsistencies, and weaving together an experience that feels solid, coherent, and real. But what if that entire process is nothing more than a brilliant illusion? Scientists studying perception have discovered something disturbing. Your brain isn't passively receiving the world, it's actively creating it. The colors you see, the objects you recognize even, the passage of time itself, all of it is a carefully constructed projection. Think about it. When you see a tree, you're not actually seeing the tree itself. What you experience is your brain's best guess of what a tree should look like based on incomplete data. This isn't speculation. Neuroscientists like Donald Hoffman argue that our senses don't show us reality as it is. They show us a useful version of reality, one that helps us survive, not necessarily one that reveals the truth. And that idea, if you truly absorb it, is enough to shatter your entire understanding of what it means to exist. But let's go deeper. The dream you call reality take a moment and ask yourself, how do you know you're awake right now? If you were dreaming, would you be able to tell? The philosopher René Descartes wrestled with this very question. He realized that everything he experienced, his senses, his thoughts, even his very body, could be a deception. The only thing he could be certain of was that he was thinking, hence his famous statement, "I think, therefore I am." But here's the part most people overlook. He never concluded what he was. He didn't say, "I think, therefore I am a person in a physical body." No, he only knew that there was a mind, something that was aware, something experiencing, and that right there is the crack in the illusion. Your entire life has been spent inside an experience you've been conditioned to accept without question. But history is filled with mystics, philosophers, and even scientists who have tried to wake people up to a deeper truth. The Buddha called it Maya, the grand illusion that keeps people trapped in suffering. Plato described it in the allegory of the cave, where prisoners mistake shadows for reality because they've never seen the world beyond their chains. What if you spent your entire life looking at shadows? The science of illusion isn't just ancient philosophy. It's backed by modern science. Neuroscientists have discovered that your brain is operating on a time delay. Every moment you experience has already happened by the time you become aware of it. Your consciousness is playing a recording of the past, even as you think you're living in the present. In one experiment, researchers found that decisions you think you're making in real time are actually decided by your subconscious seconds before you consciously realize it. In other words, your experience of control, the feeling that you are actively choosing, is another layer of the illusion. And if your very thoughts, perceptions, and choices are part of a pre-recorded system, then what does that say about free will? About who you are? About what this reality even is? Think about a video game. The character on the screen believes it's making choices, moving freely. But from the outside, you can see that everything is happening within a coded structure. Now take a step back. What if you are that character? What if your life has been running inside a system designed to make you believe in a reality that doesn't actually exist? Breaking the spell. Here's where things get interesting. Throughout history, certain individuals, mystics, sages, and even cutting-edge scientists have tried to expose this illusion. Strangely, their experiences seem to align. Take the story of Nisargadatta Maharaj, an ordinary Indian shopkeeper who, after a single moment of profound realization, completely transcended his sense of identity. He claimed that he could no longer see himself as separate from anything else. The observer and the observed became one. Or consider Albert Einstein, who said that time itself is an illusion, one that gives us the comforting feeling of continuity, but is ultimately false. These insights aren't just poetic, they point toward something deeper, a reality beyond the mind's constructs. So, the question is, can you see it right now? Your mind is likely resisting. It doesn't want to see through the illusion because doing so would mean letting go of everything familiar. But something inside you is curious, isn't it? Something inside you senses that the world isn't quite what it seems. And that's the first step. You don't wake up from a dream by forcing it. You wake up by realizing that you're dreaming. And maybe, just maybe, you've been dreaming your entire life. If you had to point to yourself, where would you gesture? Most people instinctively place their hand over their chest, believing the self resides somewhere inside. Others might point to their head, thinking consciousness lives in the brain. But here's the truth. Science has been searching for the you inside you for centuries, and it keeps coming up empty. Take a moment to consider this. If I asked you who you were, you'd probably respond with your name. But that's just a label given to you at birth. If I pressed further, you might mention your job, your relationships, your interests. But all of these are just roles, identities you've picked up along the way. If you strip all of that away, what remains? Neuroscientists have dug into this mystery, scanning brains, analyzing thoughts, and mapping consciousness. Yet no scientist has ever found a single location in the brain that holds the self. No central command center, no little being sitting behind your eyes making decisions. Instead, what they found was something far more unsettling. Your sense of self is just a story, constantly being rewritten. Your brain is a masterful illusionist. It takes scattered bits of data, memories, sensations, emotions, and stitches them together to create a cohesive narrative. You wake up each day with the assumption that you're the same person you were yesterday. But in reality, you're being rebuilt in real time. Your cells change, your thoughts shift, your emotions fluctuate. The you from 10 years ago barely exists anymore, and yet you feel continuous, as if you've always been the same person. Why? Because your mind is designed to keep the illusion going. This brings us to one of the most haunting discoveries in neuroscience. Split brain experiments. In cases where the two hemispheres of the brain have been surgically separated, researchers found something shocking. The left side of the brain would invent explanations for actions taken by the right side, even when it had no idea why those actions were happening. In other words, the conscious mind lies to itself to maintain a sense of unity. Think about what that means. Your brain is constantly narrating your life, making up reasons for why you feel the way you do, why you make certain choices, why you are who you are. But if even those explanations are fabricated, then what are you really? Buddhist philosophy has a term for this, anatta, the doctrine of no self. It teaches that the idea of a singular, unchanging self is a falsehood. The person you believe yourself to be is nothing more than a bundle of shifting thoughts, memories, and sensations, constantly appearing and disappearing. And yet, there's still something here, something aware of all of this. The thoughts come and go, but you are watching them. The emotions rise and fade, but you experience them. So the real question is, who is the observer? This is where every philosopher, mystic, and neuroscientist stumbles. The more you try to define the observer, the more it slips through your fingers. It's not something you can grasp, because it's the thing doing the grasping. And if you truly understand this, then you begin to see the illusion for what it is. Your life, your identity, your reality, it's all a beautifully crafted narrative held together by memory and perception. But beneath it all, there's something else, something silent, something untouched by the passing of time, something that has always been here, watching, waiting, knowing, and once you start noticing it, you can't unsee it. The dream you call reality. Close your eyes for a second and imagine waking up from a deep sleep. For a brief moment, there's no memory, no identity, just awareness. And then, like a film reel starting up, the mind kicks in. You remember your name, your responsibilities, your struggles, your desires. But ask yourself, what if waking up is just slipping into another layer of the dream? Throughout history, the greatest minds have questioned the nature of reality. Plato compared our experience to prisoners in a cave, mistaking shadows on the wall for reality itself. The Hindu concept of Maya describes the world as an illusion, a grand deception that prevents us from seeing the true nature of existence. And modern science, it's starting to say the same thing. Take the famous double-slit experiment in quantum mechanics. Scientists found that the mere act of observing particles changes their behavior. When no one is watching, they exist in a state of pure possibility, a wave of potential. But the moment we look, they choose a definite form. This isn't philosophy, this is physics. The world isn't made of solid, fixed objects. It's fluid, shifting, responding to observation itself. Now consider your own experience. From the moment you were born, your brain has been translating electrical signals into something that feels real. The colors you see are just interpretations of different wavelengths of light. The sounds you hear are vibrations turned into meaning by your mind. Even time itself is an illusion. Your brain stitches together moments, smoothing them out to create the illusion of continuity. You think you're experiencing reality directly, but in truth, you're experiencing a filtered, edited version of it. And here's where it gets even stranger. Your dreams follow the same process. Think about the last dream you had. While you were in it, it felt completely real. You saw, heard, touched, and even felt emotions just as vividly as you do right now. Only when you woke up did you realize it was all a fabrication, an illusion pieced together by your own mind. What if this waking life is no different? Neuroscientists have found that when we recall a memory, our brain reconstructs it, rather than retrieving an exact recording. Every time you remember something, you change it slightly, shaping it with your current understanding. This means your past, the thing you believe defines you, is constantly shifting. You're not who you think you are, because the very you remember has already been altered. Even your sense of now isn't real. It takes about 80 milliseconds for your brain to process sensory input, meaning you're always living, slightly in the past. By the time you think you're experiencing the present, it's already gone. You're chasing a moment that doesn't even exist. The philosopher René Descartes tried to strip away every assumption to find absolute truth. He realized he could doubt everything, his senses, his memories, even the world itself. But there was one thing he couldn't doubt, the fact that something was experiencing doubt. This led to his famous conclusion, cogito, ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. But even that may have been an illusion. What if you are not the thinker? What if the thoughts, the memories, the identity, all of it, is just another dream playing out on the screen of awareness? If you truly grasp this, something shifts. The urgency, the attachment, the illusion of control, it all starts to fade. You begin to see reality for what it is, a dream, a beautifully complex, fleeting, impermanent dream. And the one watching it, that's the only thing that's real. So if reality isn't what it seems, and if your mind is shaping the very world you experience, what does that mean for you? Does it free you, or does it unsettle you? Either way, you can't unsee it now. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had a moment where reality felt different, like a glitch in the Matrix? I'd love to hear your experience. And if you're ready to keep unraveling the hidden truths of existence, hit that subscribe button. There's so much more to uncover. Reality isn't done surprising you yet.